It's fine.
Anyway, it's fine. I don't
I'm
care.
not upset about it. I'm sorry. I'm gonna put my phone out of this room. So that it's not...
The chaos of the start of this
Bugging
episode
me.
is so great.
Don't edit it out.
No, it's staying in.
They must see
It's staying
what
in.
we go through.
So today we're talking about the Ballas and Bechdel Test.
What?
I hate you. Okay, let's do introductions. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of The Viewers Club. Oh god, I didn't tell you who was gonna... I'll let you guys suffer. Take a guess of who's gonna introduce themselves first. My name is Megan.
I'm Lucas.
I'm Tess. Hey, it worked out. I was
thought
wondering
maybe
if
if
we were gonna go for it, like,
Yeah.
just like fight it out right away, or if we both were just gonna have this awkward silence.
Right. I just
Stare
wanted to
down or jump to it.
in. I wanted to jump in as quickly as I could.
Osama is not here with us today, but he will be with us in future episodes. But today, we are actually not discussing one film in particular, but we're actually kind of discussing more of an idea of filmmaking, I would say, you know? And the reason I actually wanted to talk about this is because I brought it up with each and every single one of our members of the Viewers Club, and I found out that apparently I was the only one who knew what this thing was.
Yes.
And by no means any fault of their own, I just had a really epic English slash mythology teacher in high school. She was so great. Love her to death. She should know who she is. If she's listening, I don't know. But today we're going to be discussing...
Today we're gonna be disgusting.
We're going to be disgusting.
Let's get gross.
Today we're going to be discussing the Bechdel Test, which is basically a set of 3 rules.
I'm listening. No.
Lucas is doing something stupid. I'm going to wait till he composes himself, and then we're going to talk.
I saw Tessa laughing, and so that I continued laughing, and then she is just a vicious chain. I'm sorry.
I was trying
this
not
is
to
a
laugh
very
anymore.
serious topic. We're very serious people.
We are going to be discussing something called the Bechdel Test, which is a set of 3 rules basically in filmmaking, kind of, that nobody really follows. And it was created by the cartoonist, comic book illustrator, author Alison Bechdel, who is best known for writing Fun Home, which was the inspiration by the Broadway musical Fun Home. You know, it's very interesting. It's fun. I highly recommend listening to it. It's a really great musical. The comic is also really well done as well. But she created a comic, I forget how long ago she wrote the comic, where it's these 2 characters, female characters, talking about going to see a movie, and one of them says that, no, I don't go see movies unless they pass these 3 simple rules. So here are the 3 simple rules that are in it. 1, you have to have 2 or more women who have names in a scene, you know. 2, they have to talk to each other. And then 3, they have to talk to each other about something that isn't about a man. So it's like super simple.
This.
Yes, I totally support this. I love this concept.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it and you think back to a lot of films, personally, when I think back to some of my favorite films, there's either one female character or no female characters. And even if there are female characters in it, they're always talking about a guy, you know? It's like, I don't know about you guys, but...
Yeah, it is weird looking back and seeing that. You're like, wow, that's...
Yeah.
So, to state why these rules exist, they're not like rules that you have to follow when making it, otherwise we'd have more films that we could talk about.
Right.
But the main reason that she brings this up is basically to have active female presence in films. So yes, there is female presence in a lot of films, you know, but it's not talking about that. It's talking about the active female presence. It doesn't mean that it's going to make a movie good or bad, whether these rules are followed, you know. But it's like a simple set of rules that if you look back on some of your favorite films, they don't tend to follow it.
Right.
I think she even not admitted, but said that some of her favorite films don't even pass her test, you know?
She said her favorite film was Groundhog Day.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, it's really interesting to kind of look at this and how, and again, this is more of a serious topic that we haven't really branched into before on this podcast, but I think it's a really important one to bring up, especially given the times that we live in right now. In the future, I'd like to talk about more diversity in films with like people of color and having women in more leading positions on the production side of things, you know. But I think for today, to kind of ease into those topics, we're just going to talk about some movies and TV shows that either pass or don't pass the Bechdel test.
Nice.
I love it.
I know where I stand on personal opinion of the Bechdel test. I am in full support of it, you know. But I'd like to know your guys's, one, your general feelings towards the Bechdel test, and then two, what you thought of it when you heard of it, and kind of what it made you guys personally think of when you were analyzing some of the stuff you had seen after you heard about it. So let's start with Tessa.
All right. Well, I also support this test, and I didn't know about it until Megan told me about it a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it's very interesting, and it really makes you think about, you know, the movies that I've seen or that are like mainstream, well, not now in theaters, but you know what I mean, like mainstream films and movies, and how like there's this huge dynamic between male and female actors in this industry, and even just in the like the characters that they play. I know personally, I've been in a couple like short films, and I played this character that had a name on the script, but in the credits had no name. And it kind of was kind of hurt, and it was like, oh, this character deserves a name. And even if it wasn't me playing the role, like just seeing another movie, either like the women are over sexualized or they don't have their own thoughts and stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's not very true. So I like to see better representation.
Yeah.
Also,
I think it brings up a good point as well, is that I don't, and I'm not trying to like criticize other people's like favorite movies or favorite shows that have like leading female ladies, you know, by saying that those aren't like supporting feminism or anything, because they could totally be doing that with a single female character in the title, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's more or less looking at how active women are portrayed, how actively they are in the story, you know, like, are they just there to talk about men because that's the most important thing to a woman's life? Like, all we talk about are guys.
There are other things we can talk about, you know.
It kind of like perpetuates the stereotype that women only exist to serve or talk about men, you know. Or that there are only a select few strong women, especially if you look at like superhero movies. There's a huge lacking in passing the Bechdel test, even with you know women with female leads in it. Like Wonder Woman doesn't really pass the Bechdel test, because who does she talk about with the women?
That's right.
She talks about Steve, you know. It's like,
oh, Steve.
Steve. But that doesn't mean that she's not it doesn't mean that she's not a strong character or anything. It just means that they for some reason think, oh, she only talks about this, they only talk about this one person, you know.
And personally, I don't think that it's bad that female characters like talk about other guy characters or whatever, but it's more so the point that we have other things that we can talk about as well, and like opinions and stuff. So like you were saying with the stereotype.
I haven't.
Lucas, what was your general feeling when you first learned about the Bechdel test and your thoughts about it as you kind of explored?
Well, same boat. I hadn't heard of it until you had brought it up after we'd listened to a couple songs from Fun Home, and that was great. But it was definitely really it was really eye opening in terms of you're looking at movies and you're like, wow, they you don't see that kind of relationship or that kind of representation as much as you think you do.
Mm-hmm.
And you did a very good job, and I think Alison Bechdel has done a very great job of saying the test is not, passing the test is not a hallmark of a good film, and
right.
because I think a lot of people, like you said, hear it and they think that you're saying that their favorite film is sexist or
passing the feminist agenda or whatever garbage they're saying at that point.
They think you're going after their favorite film, and it's like she said in an interview, it's a conversation starter where you're thinking, well, why is that? Can is there a way that we can incorporate that more in the type of stories that we tell? And it's really interesting, and it's, as far as writing goes, I don't know. I don't want to make it seem like I was a perfect equality writer, but like it whenever I'm writing characters, I just I focus on the character. I don't care about any other outlying factors. It's the character, but it's made me more conscious, I guess, as a writer of just as a writer, if I'm writing a character, if there's like any subconscious thing there, or if I'm doing something justice, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's made me think more as a writer about that, and I, thankfully I haven't, it hasn't like affected any of my stories at all. So it's like I haven't, but it still makes you think about it more, and it makes you think about what how if you can include that, or if that's a good it's good to keep in your head when you're writing. It's a good it's something that I hadn't thought about. So I liked keeping that. I haven't seen Wonder Woman yet. I really want to see it. And I think
you haven't seen Wonder Woman?
I know. Wow. I own it. I don't know how I haven't seen it. Like, my parents have. They love it. I know. I'm a horrible person. I'm just a horrible. But I probably the beginning of the film when she's with the Amazons and they're talking about combat. That's probably the part that would pass. But I get what you mean, where it's like there's it's she's still an incredibly strong female character. That's like a good example of it's a film that isn't it doesn't necessarily pass it throughout, I guess, or it's not but it's that's another thing.
I think I know where you're going with this. I think
that's what you're talking. Where it's still
think
good.
Yeah, it's not to define that the film is a feminist or empowering female film, because Wonder Woman is a feminist film. It is empowering to women. It just doesn't pass this test necessarily. So that doesn't mean that it's like a good or a bad thing.
Right. Yeah. And I think the author and a lot of the people that talk about it have done a great job of saying, hey, this is a conversation. This is an interesting topic. But it's definitely something that I've kept in the back of my head whenever I'm thinking about movies or writing. It's something that's there in a way that it wasn't before.
Yeah, it's used as more of a tool now to aid you in it. And I think that's the one thing that I truly enjoy about it, the Bechdel test, is that it's not there to tell you whether a movie is good or bad.
Right.
It's just there to use to kind of think about how the world views women in society, and it kind of more or less points to gender inequality in the portrayal of women in film, you know, where it's like men can discuss business and you know, and other like big topic things, you know, they can discuss other things that aren't women, but women tend to mainly just discuss the men in the show or in the film, you know. It's like it's just kind of to keep in mind that women are more than their male counterpart, you know.
Right.
And then a fun little thing I thought we would do is I have a list of films that actually do pass the Bechdel test, and I kind of wanted to see whether or not it surprises you that they passed it, or that you're now just realizing, you know, that they passed it. And then something else we're going to do is we're going to go through some of the shows that we talked about and see whether or not they passed the Bechdel test.
Oh,
Got it.
I like this.
So I looked up a few lists of films that pass the Bechdel test. The first one is Frozen. Oddly enough. That's like...
Yeah.
So when I saw that, I thought back to the film and I realized they do have moments where they do talk about a male character, you know? But for the majority of the film, it's all about these two women and protecting each other and then their family, you know?
Absolutely.
And of course, they do talk about Hans,
Like
you know?
Hans, yeah.
Her fiance of 5 minutes.
But it's not in a way where it's random, you know? It's in a way where, like, you can't fall in love with somebody you just met. That was the topic of it, you know? I think it's very interesting.
Right. I mean, you know, if it's in the context of the story, then it's like, all right, you got it. That's what has to happen.
It's like, it's not saying that you can avoid talking about men.
Right.
It's just that
it's
it doesn't
more
have
like,
to be the center of discussion the entire time.
Right.
Yeah. And just having that awareness.
Yeah, exactly. Here are some other ones. The musical Chicago technically passes the Bechdel test.
Yeah.
Hidden Figures passes the Bechdel
I
test.
love that movie.
Yes.
It's such a good movie.
Oh
And
my gosh.
it's not even... And they don't even really talk about men the entire time. They talk about men in the context of inequality.
Right.
But then they're not specifically talking about the men, you know? Which is really great. The comedy Bridesmaids passes the Bechdel test.
I haven't seen that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that in a while. I'll have to
Yeah,
watch
it's
that.
been a hot minute, but somebody argued for it, and it was really, really well argued. So Bridesmaids is, of course, about a group of women who are... A group of bridesmaids, exactly.
What?
And they're celebrating the fact that their friend is about to get married. But if you think back to some of the dialogue, I don't remember them talking about men too much. Of course, they talk about them in some context, you know. But for the most part, it's about, like, friendship. It's about finding one's individual self, you know. And it technically passes the Bechdel test. I need to rewatch it to be, like, 100% certain on it.
Yeah.
But it's like, it has more moments of women talking about women, or women talking about the events that they're going to be going to, or you know. So I think that's really interesting. Another fun one that gets pointed out is Mad Max Fury Road.
Ooh, yeah.
Passes the Bechdel test. I actually haven't seen that movie.
Yeah,
It's
I
good.
haven't seen it yet.
It's
I've
really
heard
good.
good things about it.
I didn't like it the first time I watched it, but then I watched it again, and I really liked it.
Black Panther, I have to bring up, does pass the Bechdel test. It's still sad to talk about Black
I
Panther.
know, my heart
right
just...
now. And in the context, giving context for you guys, Chadwick Boseman has just passed away at the time that we're recording this. And I know that we're bringing up a man while we're talking about the Bechdel test, but I do want to bring him up and say that he is a phenomenal actor, and he is such an amazing person, and he will be missed.
Rest in peace, man.
Rest in peace, rest in power, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, going back to Black Panther, it does pass the Bechdel test. Because, and I honestly thoroughly enjoy this movie for a lot of other reasons, outside of the fact that it passes the Bechdel test, you know? But it also gives empowerment to women. Like, some of the strongest warriors there are all women. The people who are sworn to protect the crown are all women.
It's awesome.
It's amazing. And then to kind of speed through a few more, you have Black Swan, Star Wars: The Last Jedi, Spirited Away, The Hunger Games, and then one of my all-time favorite movies, Aliens.
Mm.
Alien and Aliens, they both pass the Bechdel test.
That was in the comic, the original comic.
Yeah.
With the two, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
The last
those
film
are
I
just-
saw was Aliens. I haven't seen a movie in a while.
It's really interesting to look back on some of these movies, or even TV shows, and be like, wow, they do pass the Bechdel test. Because sometimes you don't even think about it, you know? You just assume that it doesn't. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to bring up some of the topics that we have discussed in previous episodes. And I want to see if you guys can figure out whether or not they pass the Bechdel test or not. I kind of have some notes on it and my own opinions, but we'll discuss. So the first one I want to talk about is our Avatar: The Last Airbender. Does it pass the Bechdel test?
Yes. I think it does, because I'm thinking of scenes right now.
I think it does.
So technically, Avatar: The Last Airbender kind of passes the Bechdel test.
Hey,
Not
kind
every
of.
episode.
Right.
It's a
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of situation.
Right, like not
it
every
depends on the
episode.
episode. It depends on the episode you're looking at. For the most part, in season 1, it doesn't pass the Bechdel test because it's mainly men and only Katara, and you know, that's pretty much the majority of the female characters who have names who talk. But in season 2 and season 3, things do tend to pick up because you get more female characters. You get Katara and Toph. You get Azula and May and all of those characters, you know. So you do get more rounded as the season goes on.
Right.
So, yeah.
Nice.
The Witcher.
I have to
Have
think
fun
about
with this one. We're specifically talking about season 1 of The Witcher.
Right.
I know they're in progress of season 2 right now.
Right. Well, and I remember scenes between Ciri and her grandmother where they talked about other things, and you know, I mean, like, obviously you need to find the Witcher. Like, that was the main. But other than that, I remember that, and then like probably some conversations between Yennefer and the name that I always forget, but whatever. You know what I'm talking about, the headmistress.
Yes.
So like it does, but also like a barely.
I think Yennefer is the only exception.
Right.
Like she passes.
I think Yennefer's the only exception until she meets the Witcher.
Right.
And then it's pretty much
right.
Yeah,
Then it's they're in love with each other.
So I put for the Witcher, like, kind of. Less so than Avatar. We can definitely say that. Pixar.
We talked about this, kind of.
Kind of. Yeah.
I'm talking about like Pixar in general, not really specific moments.
Right.
Or specific movies.
I meant we talked about this concept in the Pixar, and it's like, again, I think a meh.
Pixar, in my opinion, kind of leans towards the no.
Yeah, it leans towards
There's
the no.
only a few movies that I can honestly say pass the Bechdel test. Brave is one of them.
Yeah.
And Inside Out is another one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are the only 2 movies I can personally think of where it passes the Bechdel test. Even in movies that have other female leads in it, like The Incredibles and The Incredibles 2, don't really pass it.
Right. I was just about to say Inside Out again, because I don't think of Riley's world and the world of the emotions as like the same world. So I was thinking of scenes between joy and sadness. And I was like, what's that movie? Oh.
You're like, oh, we already brought that up.
Oh, that is, yeah.
But like movies like The Incredibles are, even though like Incredibles 2 was all about women empowerment, you know, there's
Finding
still
Nemo.
like, Finding Nemo. There's like a lack of women who talk, who have names, who don't talk about anything other than the men in their lives. It's very interesting because Pixar is usually very empowering towards specific people or even like groups, you know, but there are very few films that I can honestly name off the top of my head that actually passed the Bechdel test. You can just cross off all the films that have male, like mostly male characters, you know? So that's like Monsters, Inc., gone, you know? Up, gone. WALL-E, kind of gone, because...
Right, and there's not really, like...
there's not a lot
like,
of
robots.
communication in general
Right.
in WALL-E,
Like,
you
Like,
know?
there's, like, you know, and do the robots
Onward,
have genders, right? I mean...
Bug's Life, gone, I would say. They technically talk about a male in it, but not in, like, a romantic context, you know? But even then, when they're not, they're always talking about the bad guy. But it's very interesting to look at it.
Mhm.
And again, this does not mean that these movies are
Right.
bad in any
Yeah.
way. It just is kind
we
of
can't
looking at
stress
them in a
that
different
enough.
context.
Right.
I can't stress that enough. We do not hate these movies
Right.
because they don't pass the Bechdel test.
Both of
We
my
hate them
favorite
now.
films absolutely do not.
My favorite film of all time, and I'll stand by it, is Marvel's The Avengers. It does not pass the Bechdel test.
Yeah.
Period.
Same
Doesn't.
with Monty Python.
Yeah. Monty Python and the Holy Grail does not pass the Bechdel test.
Right.
We still love it.
Mhm.
Still love it.
Which was another one that I was going to bring up.
Oh, sorry.
Right.
We can, but yeah,
Mhm.
hit it on the head right there. Let's talk about one that I think kind of falls in a gray area.
Mhm.
Ooh.
Phineas and Ferb.
I was thinking about that when you
Yeah.
first brought up the test. I'm like, oh, I wonder.
Because, I mean, who do you have?
This is excluding
Well-
the recently released
never mind.
Candace
Yeah.
versus the
Yeah.
Universe movie.
Could
Well, I
could
was-
you
Yeah.
could you re-establish the 3 rules again? Just so I
So
have
the
it
3
fresh.
rules: have 2 or more women who have
Mhm.
names
Okay.
who talk to each other about something other than a man.
I was just about to say that, like, every episode passed because Candace and her mom talked, but then I realized it was always,
She's
you know,
talking
about
it's
Phineas
about
and
busting
Ferb.
Phineas and Ferb. So I was like, okay, they can't. Yeah, I don't.
And
think,
just to
yeah.
clarify, when I'm saying like talking about a man, they don't specifically say talking about a man in a romantic sense.
Right,
It's
it's
talking
just-
about a man in general.
Mhm.
Right.
There aren't any episodes, I think,
Wow.
that Phineas and Ferb pass, honestly. It's a really great show. It's
Right.
really
Yeah.
fun.
Mhm.
The female characters are really great and
Mhm.
funny, but they always talk about guys when they're in the same room. When Candace is talking with Stacy, it's either about Jeremy
Yeah.
or Phineas and Ferb. When Isabella is with the Fireside Girls, it's usually always about Phineas.
They're like,
You know?
shut up.
There's like maybe one episode that I will let pass the Bechdel test for the most part. And it's that episode of Phineas and Ferb where Phineas asked Isabella and the Fireside Girls to go get the sapling of the sticky
Yeah.
tree sap. Because there are moments in it where Isabella is talking with the Fireside Girls and she doesn't mention Phineas.
What?
Although she's doing this thing for
Right.
him.
For him.
You know?
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
It's the
Okay.
only episode I can think of. I haven't seen Candace versus the Universe yet, so I'm going to hold off
Mm-hmm.
judgment on it. But yeah, I don't think
what's-
Phineas and Ferb passes.
What's Dr. Doofenshmirth's daughter's name again?
Vanessa.
Vanessa. Her and Candace, do they ever... I'm not really
Like,
remembering
they
their
talk,
conversations.
but it's normally about her dad and Phineas.
It is?
Or Ferb.
Or
Wow,
Ferb.
okay.
That's always funny.
Alright.
It's
Hey,
Wow.
what's your...
there's like
what's your
one
brother like?
minute. I think there's 1 minute in the where Doofenshmirtz like
Mhm.
clones himself a million
Yeah.
times, and then people start turning into him. Where Candace is hanging out with those women with,
Mhm.
with Vanessa's goth friends, and they're talking about movies. But that was it, because then the subject immediately changes again, back to her dad or
Right.
back to Phineas and Ferb. You know.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Very
Hmm.
interesting. Still love the show. Doesn't pass the Bechdel test, though.
Alright.
The Umbrella Academy. Got to think thonk on this
'Cause
one. Time for
be-
big brain
right.
moment.
Because, yes, but also just barely. Because, you know, whenever Vanya and
Yeah.
Allison are talking to each other, it's a lot of it is about the creepy
guy.
boyfriend. Yeah.
Or the brothers.
Or the brothers, right, yeah.
Or the father. You know.
Absolutely.
There's
So-
very few moments where it's just them
Uh-huh.
talking. There's that moment, like, in the cabin where they sort of talk about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Talk about something other where they're talking about her powers, you know?
Right,
Yeah.
where she kills
But, like,
she tries
yeah.
to kill.
It doesn't last very long because guess where the core root of that issue comes from? The creepy boyfriend.
Yeah.
Harold
That's
Jenkins.
right. Yeah.
The platform.
No.
It does not.
Nope.
There's great female characters in it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They don't. They don't talk to each other.
Right.
No, if at all.
If at all. And the final. Well, actually, I have two more. Hill House. Haunting of Hill House.
Mm.
Some episodes.
Yes, some episodes, yeah, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of episodes where the sisters are talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
The sisters can be talking about their other sister, you know?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But they're also, or the mother, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Or the mother is talking to the daughters when they're
Right.
younger,
Mhm.
or like. So
Mhm.
technically,
Yeah.
a lot of episodes in Hill House actually pass the Bechdel test.
Right.
Wow.
Well, and at the end, because, like, Theo and Shirley, well, and they talk with each other a lot throughout the series anyways, but, like, at the very end, when the main conflict is, like, Shirley thinks Theo's having an affair with her husband, it's like, even with that, the conversation is normally about, like, how, each other views the other's, like, mental, or, like, how they view the other's issues, like, you ice people out, you blah, blah, So, like, even though that's the conflict, a lot of it ends up still revolving around their own relationship.
And then my final one is actually one that we just recorded.
Yeah.
Altered Carbon.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm going to flat out say, no, it doesn't.
Oh, wow. All right.
I'm going to, personal opinion, I don't think it passes
Mm-hmm. I'm
for
gonna...
the most part.
Yeah, because
I
they're
think-
always talking about the guys
Right.
for the most part.
When there are scenes when she's talking with her grandmother, and it's about religion, or it's about the
Mhm.
family,
That is
and it
that's
sometimes
the
goes
only
to work.
episode.
Right.
It's the only episode I think that passes the Bechdel test.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Because
there's a lot
even the
of...
conversation with her and her mother
Mhm.
usually revolve around, sometimes it revolves around religion,
Right.
but it always comes back to the boyfriend.
Right. Really, the only moments in that series that do is when it's Kristen with another female character, like
Exactly.
Prescott. Sometimes they're talking about their
Those
jobs
rare
or
moments
class.
when there's
Right.
another woman on camera.
You see, this
that
is
has a name.
another reason why I love Kristen, and why it's going to be really hard for me to watch season 2 if she's not in it.
But anyway, those are just some of the things that we've talked about in previous episodes. It's been a hot minute since I've seen it, but Lucas will be glad to tell us, did Attack on Titan pass?
I was
Bechdel
just
test?
thinking about that, and I'm trying to think about scenes, and yes, but not every episode, and
Right.
it's just barely like this. There's there's Mikasa, who's like the ultimate badass, and I remember her talking with another female character, but the context of the conversation was, "I'm gonna kill you." So it was like, it's not about a guy, but it's like it
Oh my
was,
gosh.
and it's and
Murderous.
I was thinking about that, and I've noticed that there are a lot of, there's a lot of shows that don't pass the Bechdel test, but like they have a good evenly distributed cast of like male and female characters. So like even if they have a lot of female characters and a lot of strong female characters, because Attack on Titan has a buttload. Like I was thinking about the final season, and the final season I'm not trying to spoil anything for anime only people. I read the Attack on Titan manga, and the final season does pass the Bechdel test. But, it's one of those things where there are a lot of female characters that are really strong, but their stories are interconnected with a lot of male characters. So it's like, it's hard to not talk about them. But
let me bring
yeah.
up a show that kind of does the exact same thing, and I'm
Mhm.
making assumptions that we've all seen this. Friends.
I've seen an episode or two, but
Okay, then I'll talk with
like
Tessa,
I've seen it, but I haven't seen the whole thing.
Yeah, I've seen maybe like half of the entirety
I've
of the
seen
show.
all of it. It's been a hot minute since
Yeah.
I've seen an episode of it.
Yeah, same.
But from what I remember of it, it rarely, if at all, passes the Bechdel test.
Yeah, I know.
It's
Because they're always
literally-
talking about the guys or like
Yeah.
whoever they're dating.
Exactly. It's about who they're dating, who they want to date. Always guys,
Drama.
you know. Drama. It's like
Drama.
And I think it just proves a point that you can have strong female
Mm-hmm.
characters, role models, you know,
Mm-hmm.
who struggle with life, who work really hard, who appear to be equal to their male counterparts, and yet it can still not pass the Bechdel test.
Interesting. Yeah.
Again, to stress, it's like the Bechdel test doesn't make or break a movie or a
No.
TV show. It's just
Yeah.
something to constantly be thinking about.
Yeah.
You know what? So sorry to interrupt.
No, please do.
I just realized something. So, season 1 of Attack on Titan, not so much, like, very, very rarely. But season 2, yes, because of it focuses heavily on the relationship between these two girls. Because one of them is very romantically interested in the other girl, and you don't really. I'm sorry, I don't want to spoil anything. The other girl, you don't really know what her feelings are, but season 2 definitely does, because it focuses heavily on that relationship. Sorry to interrupt, but I just thought of that.
No, you're good.
That's
So,
yeah.
With that being said, do you guys have any closing comments or anything at all?
Nope.
Now's your time.
No, yeah.
Now I'm just thinking back at all the different films
Right.
and shows that I've watched.
Right?
Like
Right,
asking
you're like,
myself,
did
does
it
it pass? I don't know.
Right. Well, it's
Yeah, it's.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that because it's
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
something. I think
Thank you to
a lot
my
of us can be
mythology
aware of.
teacher back
Right.
in high school.
Yeah.
Teaching me about it.
Shout
It's,
out.
you know, it's such an interesting thing to think about. You know, it's one of those things that, you know, again, it's stressed over and over again. It, you know, it doesn't mean that it's good or bad. And it's, you know, kind of another thing to think about is it's like, all right, sometimes the story literally can't do that. Like, if you're thinking
Yeah,
about
yes.
the story, but it's such an interesting thing, and like I said at the beginning with like writing, I try to, when I think of characters anyway, it's kind of like I try to do that anyway, but the Bechdel test is kind of like a more organized thought process of how that can happen. So like you said, it's a nice tool that you can kind of keep with you where you're like, I already want to do this. This is like a structure of something you can look for. So it's, you know, it's very, very interesting. Thank you for introducing me to it.
And I think it also is kind of like the Bechdel test kind of helps bring awareness to maybe some like subconscious patterns that we have. Like maybe we don't
Right,
intend for something to come across a certain way, but that's just how it does.
right.
And so it helps us identify it.
Women writers do the exact same thing. You know, it's not we're not targeting male writers or anything at all.
Right.
You know, women writers do the exact same thing
exactly.
because so it's not like a thing
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
is only targeting
Yeah.
men, you know.
Right.
Yeah, it's women too.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen because immediately after you told me about this, I like looked it up on YouTube. Have you seen the College Humor skit that talks about it?
No.
No, but I
It's
will.
like-
now.
It's these two. It's like
Wait, I can show it to us.
Yeah.
Wait,
It's-
let me pull it up real quick and I'll stream it to you guys.
No. Oh my gosh.
It's
So
so
good.
accurate.
So that gave me a good laugh.
I
Yeah.
also loved how they used that same person in the background just walking back and forth.
Right.
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 Side
Oh my
topic.
gosh.
But yeah,
Oh man.
that's the Bechdel test in a nutshell.
Right.
To recap, basically the whole points that we're trying to make when we talk about this is that it isn't to belittle films. It's not to say that they're not feminist films. It's not to say that it can't be your favorite film. It's just to kind of keep the idea in the back of your mind that women can talk about something other than men,
Yeah.
you know? And that's basically it.
Right.
It's trying to keep
What a novel
women
idea.
actively, right? It's trying to keep women actively in the conversation, you
Yeah.
know? So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the Bechdel test. Have two women with names talking to each other about something that isn't a guy. That's it. Simple.
Wild.
Wild, man. I know. I just blew your mind.
Whoa.
But yeah, I'm glad that we got to talk about this, and I'm
Yeah.
hoping in the future that we get to have some more other topics about representation and biases or cliches in the film industry, because it is very present, even though the industry itself claims to be a very progressive, forward-thinking industry. If you really look at statistics on certain things, it's really not.
It can progress some more.
It could do a lot more progressing, guys. Wow. Like the rest of the world. Wow. But thank you guys so much for talking with me about this. And to everybody listening, leave a comment either here or on our social media at the Viewers Club on Instagram on this post, and, you know, tell us your favorite show that passes the Bechdel test. Tell us, do you agree with the Bechdel test? Why not? Open up the conversation. Talk to us.
Awesome.
Thank you guys so much for listening. My name is Megan.
My name's Lucas.
My name's Tess.
And we're the Viewers
That
Club.
was so aggressive.
What was the thing that we're saying now?
Have a good.
Have a
Have
good
a good. Have a good. Bye.
Bye.